We're diving more into the topic. We have with us from Washington, Ms. Ginger Chapman, lawyer and political analyst, and from Saida, Ms. Malek Francis, the Republican Party member. We thank you both for being with us. Let me here start with Ms. Chapman. And the LA Mayor Karen Bass accused the Trump administration of triggering unrest through what she called provocative immigration raids. Now, how do you assess the legal limits of the federal authority when it comes to launching large-scale raids without the coordination or the approval of those authorities?
Yes. Well, thank you for having us today, Mona, and greetings to your viewers as we discuss this very critical topic. As everyone can see from our news reports out of LA, Chicago, New York, that these riots are occurring at a very sensitive time in American discourse. As you've noted, there is a great deal of societal unrest at this time. And what we're seeing directly from the Trump White House, President Trump's language, along with his press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, they are doubling down on this language of the rioters are criminals. We are dealing with an invasion of an alien immigrant army. So the White House language suggests that Trump is moving in the direction of imposing the Insurrection Act to increase his authority to act on the streets. Now, the legal implications are that the Insurrection Act has three parts. And not to get too technical into the weeds, the first part of the Insurrection Act allows the president to go in even if the governor does not request federal presence. And the other two parts of the Insurrection Act allow the president to send in troops if there is either rebellion, danger of rebellion, or invasion, danger of invasion, or domestic violence, or a situation where the governor is unable or unwilling to act. So Trump does have broader powers. However, the real risk is that we are now finding out that Trump is sending in Predator drones that are used for surveillance, Black Hawk helicopters, which are normally used for rescue operations domestically, but now they're used for surveillance and transporting equipment to the federalized National Guard. And now Trump has announced he is going to deploy special response teams to 5 large cities. These happen to be Democrat-run and also sanctuary cities. So this is an escalation. Trump is stepping up, and the American people are alarmed because we do not want to see Predator drones in our skies. We do not want to see special response team tanks rolling down our streets. So this appears to be an escalation, and this is coming at a sensitive time. June 14th, as you've noted, we have a military parade here in D.C. It is the president's birthday and also Flag Day with nationwide protests.
But we'll get back to what you were speaking about and the Insurrection Act and its stipulation once again. But let me here go first to Mr. Francis. And Mr. Francis, do you think any chance Trump can contain this situation and implement his immigration policies? Or do you think the U.S. will be dragged or further dragged into more clashes?
Unfortunately, President Trump has made a grave mistake by sending troops to Los Angeles without consulting with the governor of California. And as your guest said, I agree with her, but America is not a third country. America believes in democracy. America, we have a constitution, we have laws. And as you know, and the viewers know, that President Trump doesn't care about our constitution, doesn't care about the laws. And the constitution guarantees that the American people have the right to demonstrate, to speak freely against the government or against anyone. What Trump is doing, President Trump is doing, with due respect, is against the Constitution, against everything America believes in. We're a nation of law. We're a nation that we have a constitution. But what he's doing now, he's dividing the nation between right and left, between Americans and non-Americans. And unfortunately, many Americans of national origins are afraid to get out of their home. They're afraid of ICE. ICE has been mistreating illegal aliens and legal aliens at the same time. This is not America that we know. Yes, President Trump maybe have the right to do what he's doing, but it's not the American way. And if he did not send the troops down to Los Angeles, I don't think that there would be demonstration all over United States this coming Saturday, because the American people, the majority of the people believe in our Constitution. We believe that the president should safeguard the Constitution, especially First Amendment, where Americans have the right to demonstrate. And that's what they're doing. Yes, there are a few troublemakers. They should be brought to justice. Well, we don't want any troublemakers involved in any peaceful demonstration. Therefore, President Trump should rethink his policy and should not send more troops to big cities like Chicago, Boston, Atlanta, or anywhere that there will be a demonstration this coming Saturday. It's an American, it's unacceptable, and we hope that the American people will realize that America, for all the Americans, we're a nation of democracy. We're a nation that we don't believe in dictators. We don't believe in kings. We elect our representatives to safeguard the Constitution and to protect America. There is no invasion, as he said. There is no foreigners coming into the United States, invading the United States. This is unacceptable, and President Trump has not been honest with the American peoples and the whole world. In the world all over, people are really criticizing America. What happened to us? What happened to human rights? What happened to democracy and freedom? This is unacceptable, and I don't think the American people are going to accept it. Yes, there are 70 million plus Americans who believe that President Trump is doing the right thing, but this is wrong. This is America. We've never seen it before. He's sending the National Guards to a state without consulting with the leaders of the state. Happened once in 1965 when President Johnson sent the troops against the governor who didn't allow African Americans to enter the schools. This is not America that we know.
Right. Let me here turn to you, Ms. Chapman. And over 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines have been deployed. Now, from your legal perspective, where is the borderline between supporting law enforcement and federal overreach? And you spoke about the Insurrection Act. Do the stipulation of this act have ground on the ground?
Yes. Well, as your other guest mentioned, that, well, first, I agree with your other guest. In America, we do have rights, and it is the job of the president to safeguard our rights. And I do disagree. It does appear that Trump is being very careful to follow the letter of the law, if not the spirit of the law. And this is because, of course, if Trump goes outside of the law, he will immediately be subject to several lawsuits. We have seen the opposition parties are very quick to file multiple lawsuits against Trump's actions. However, it appears that Trump is not recognizing the seriousness of the situation. Trump does have the legal authority, as your guest mentioned, when the governor is resistant. Back in the 1960s, the president back then deployed the Marines and National Guard in order to force schools to desegregate, in order to let Black students attend school with white students. However, in this situation, I do agree Trump is misreading the situation. Trump is approaching this as though it is an immigration problem or a riot problem that can be solved with deployment of national troops. However, this is a much more seated issue. As your guest has mentioned, America is very deeply divided. We have many different cultural groups, ethnic groups. When we unite under the banner of Americans, we can get along, thrive, succeed, and work together.
Yes, but
However,
Ms. Chapman, I'm taking it from the legal perspective here. And I'm asking you, do you think, from your point of view, that the Insurrection Act has grounds here? And do you think that, or what, from your point of view, the legal point of view, is the borderline between the law enforcement and this action of the Trump administration?
Yes. Well, from a very dry technical legal level, there are rules of engagement. When the soldiers are deployed, they do have to abide by lawful behavior. And in fact, the president can deploy the troops if Congress feels that there are three limitations: if the president is acting in bad faith, if he's acting outside the normal range of reasonable behaviors, also if the soldiers themselves engage in unlawful activity. Now, the legal basis, things are very different. We are in a very different era legally than the 1960s era. Since the 1960s, the courts and the Supreme Court especially have upheld the president's right to send in and deploy troops to to federalize the National Guard. In situations of domestic violence, rebellion. Nowadays, it's less clear, and this is because we are now more pro states' rights instead of absolute deference to the federal government. The red states and the blue states are now resisting the federal government's influence in many ways. The red Republican states do not want the federal government to impose gun restrictions on them, so they're resisting the federal government for gun laws. Democrats are resisting the federal government because for economic reasons, they're legalizing cannabis drugs. They do not, which is illegal on a federal level. So they are resisting the federal government's influence on that level, and also with respect to immigration. So this is a very murky, unclear legal time because the states are gaining power against the federal government.
Right.
The states' power is rising as the powers that the courts have granted the president under the Insurrection Act do appear to be waning. So we're also seeing a shift, more power to the states, away from the federal government. And once again, as civil unrest increases in America, this balance between states' rights, federal rights, and the rights of the citizens is going to come to the forefront. And as we've seen, it will come to the forefront in the form of protests, arrests.
Clear. Definitely clear. Let me go to Mr. Francis, and Trump described the protests as a full-blown assault on peace. From your perspective, do these protests truly threaten public order, or is this about maintaining a political narrative?
In America, we have been used to demonstrations in every city, in every state, because as your guest said, I agree with her, that all rights are guaranteed by our Constitution. We have the right to demonstrate against our government, against our leaders, but no one has the right to destroy private or public places, and all the troublemakers who are accused or are seen on video cameras demolishing buildings, breaking glasses, police cars, should be brought to justice. However, American people have the right to demonstrate, have the right to speak their mind. And our rights, as I said before, guaranteed by our Constitution. And no one could take the right away from us. President Trump, unfortunately, doesn't think before he acts. And that's the problem we're having. As a Republican, I'm ashamed of him. I'm ashamed of the Republican leaders who have been very silent. I know they're afraid of him because election is coming next year. And any Republican representative that does not agree with him or criticize him, he will not support in the primary, and he may lose the election or her election. That's the problem. I think President Trump is acting like King George, or a dictator in the United States. We had a revolution against Britain. We did not want any king or any prince to govern us. We believe in democracy. We elect our leaders. We don't want any dictators. And he has been, unfortunately, behaving as one. And the whole world is really afraid of what's going on in the United States. The demonstrations are going to spread. And if he sends more troops, God help us, and nobody would know what the end will be. Because, as your guest said, we are divided between blue and between right. And we are divided between white and between black, between white and legal and illegal aliens. This is very dangerous. The president must sit down with his advisors and rethink his policy. No one is invading America. If someone is invading America or a nation, all of us will defend America. And our 4th of July is coming in a few weeks. We celebrate the independence of the United States from Britain. We don't want someone now. Yes.
Right. Let me go to Ms. Chapman. And what do you think the outcome of this crisis would be? And are we witnessing an unprecedented milestone in the American history?
The outcome of this crisis is extremely unclear, and this is an unprecedented moment. I agree with your other guest. The solution to this is not going to be a military solution. It's not going to be tanks rolling down our streets. It's going to be a political solution. Right now, Trump is trapped. The Trump that campaigned is not the Trump that is president. President Trump seems unable to recognize the reality on the ground. This is not about a criminal invasion. This is not about an illegal alien or immigrant invasion. In fact, what we are seeing is these protests are a mass organized event. There are groups in America who want to exploit the divisions by paying and funding these protests. It can be race-based protests, religious protests that we're seeing more of. It can be illegal versus legal immigrant protests. We do have groups in America exploiting and funding these protests to drive the divisions deeper for their own political gain. And in truth, the borders are, Tom said, this is actually about international Mexican criminal cartel activity. The original raids were not for illegal workers. They were actually for owners of corporations that are engaging in tens of millions of dollars in customs fraud, which speaks to the bigger issue. It's not the illegals. We have a war brewing on our southern border between the Mexican cartels and the American Border Patrol. The Mexican cartels have been making billions of dollars. This is a serious war brewing. It's not about the immigrants. There's going to be violence on our southern border due to conflict with the cartels as they're losing the billions of dollars in illegal smuggling, human trafficking, and fentanyl trade. Trump needs to wake up and recognize and be able to take action. He's paralyzed right now.
Right. Mr. Francis, you've just heard Ms. Chapman. So from your point of view, what do you have on that? And what could be the factors that escalated the situation to that extent? And is it the fact that the California governor is a Democrat, or is it the reported amount of violence that was used against the protester, or this new issue brought up by Ms. Chapman?
I agree with her. What she said, I agree with her 100%. As we discussed before, America is divided under the leadership of President Trump. We need someone to unite America, to work with the American people, not to send tanks and send troops to stop the demonstration and deny the rights for freedom of speech. This is unacceptable. It's un-American. And I hope that the president, as your guest said, will sit down and wake up, because I think he's sleeping. He doesn't know what's really going on the street. He loves to talk, and he doesn't think sometimes. This is very dangerous. It's unacceptable, and we don't agree with the policy. and he should rethink his policy right now before it gets very, very dangerous in the next few days. Because, as your guest said, there are too many outsiders, Democrats or non-Democrats, lobbyists or big companies, yes, are spending money in order for people to demonstrate on the streets. And we have to stop it before it explodes. It's like a volcano. It's going to erupt all over.
Right, indeed. And that is a dangerous bill that is raised. That was Mr. Malek Francis, the Republican Party member, and Ms. Ginger Chapman, the lawyer and political analyst. We thank you both for being with us and for your valuable insights.